Admittedly, documented real-life horror stories are often less about monsters and more about the raw power of nature. However, there's a tale whispered amongst lighthouse keepers on the Great Lakes, a story of a winter so harsh, it birthed something more sinister. It concerns a lighthouse keeper named Arthur Davies and his ordeal at Greystone Reef in the winter of 1908. Arthur, a grizzled veteran of the unforgiving lake, had seen his fair share of winter storms, but nothing prepared him for that year. The snow came early, a relentless blizzard that seemed to swallow the world in white. The wind howled like a banshee, a constant, maddening drone that gnawed at your sanity. The isolation was the first horror. Supplies dwindling, the radio went silent, a victim of the fierce winds and ice that encased the antenna. Arthur was alone, a solitary figure trapped in a tower of stone amidst a world of swirling white. Then came the whispers. Faint at first, barely audible over the howling wind, they sounded like voices carried on the icy breath. Arthur dismissed them as a trick of the mind, the loneliness playing tricks. But the whispers persisted, growing clearer with each passing day. They spoke in a language he didn't understand, a guttural rasp that sent chills down his spine. The nights were the worst. Huddled in the meager warmth of the lantern, Arthur swore he could see figures in the swirling snow outside. Grotesque shapes, half-formed and monstrous, drawn by the faint glow of the lighthouse. Sleep became a luxury he couldn't afford, his nights spent battling a growing paranoia fueled by the whispers and the unseen shapes dancing in the blizzard. One night, the whispers became screams, a cacophony of inhuman howls that rattled the very foundation of the lighthouse. The lantern inexplicably flickered, plunging him into darkness. Panic clawed at him as he fumbled for matches, the screams intensifying outside. When the lantern finally sputtered back to life, Arthur saw them. A horde of grotesque figures, their forms shifting in the wind-whipped snow. They were humanoid, but twisted, their eyes burning with an unnatural hunger. They clawed at the glass, their screams a horrifying chorus. Arthur barricaded himself in the lighthouse's upper chamber, the pounding against the door a relentless drumbeat of terror. He spent the remaining days in a state of feverish desperation, fueled by dwindling food and the ever-present threat at the door. Finally, the storm abated as suddenly as it had begun. Silence descended, an oppressive blanket heavier than the previous chaos. A rescue boat found Arthur days later, a raving madman babbling about the things in the storm. He died in a sanitarium, his story dismissed as the ravings of a broken mind. But the lighthouse keepers on the Great Lakes still whisper of Arthur Davies, the man who faced not just the wrath of winter, but something far more sinister born of the storm's icy embrace. A reminder that sometimes, the greatest horror isn't the cold, but what it awakens in the lonely darkness. Anchored in the unforgiving expanse of the barren sea, the remote Russian outpost of Severnaya became a battleground against the winter of 1912. Unlike the sudden, brutal cold of Oymyakon, Severnaya succumbed to a slow, insidious freeze. For the meteorologists stationed there, the first whispers of trouble were subtle shifts in weather patterns. The usual crisp Arctic air grew thick and stagnant, a heavy blanket trapping the cold. Days shortened, plunging the station into an extended twilight, the sun a pale ghost on the horizon. Unease settled amongst the crew. The silence grew oppressive, broken only by the mournful cries of gulls and the creaking groan of the ice floes tightening their grip on the outpost. Fishing, a vital source of food, became a chilling ordeal. Nets froze solid as they were pulled from the water, and the men returned with meager hauls and frostbitten fingers. The real horror began when the seawater started to freeze. The rhythmic lapping of waves against the hull was replaced by a deathly stillness. The once vibrant ocean, the source of life, transformed into a vast, unforgiving expanse of ice. Panic bloomed, a cold dread that coiled around their hearts tighter than the tightening grip of the winter. Supplies dwindled with terrifying speed. Resupply ships, unable to navigate the ever-thickening ice, were forced to turn back. The men, confined to the cramped quarters of the station, were haunted by the gnawing hunger and the ever-present threat of scurvy. Morale plummeted. The once jovial camaraderie gave way to suspicion and paranoia. Arguments erupted over dwindling rations, fueled by the constant fear and the gnawing emptiness in their bellies. Sleep became a fragile escape, haunted by nightmares of endless white and the chilling whispers of the wind. One by one, illness swept through the station. Colds morphed into debilitating pneumonia, bodies weakened by hunger and the relentless cold proving easy prey. The doctor, a young man with haunted eyes, fought a losing battle against the relentless tide of sickness. Desperate measures were taken. Hunting parties ventured out onto the frozen sea, returning with meager pickings and the chilling realization that the wildlife, too, had fled the encroaching winter. The aurora borealis, usually a breathtaking spectacle, became a cruel reminder of their isolation, its vibrant colors a mockery of their dwindling hope. The final entry in the station log spoke volumes. A single, chilling sentence scrawled across the page: "The cold has taken everything. There is nothing left but the silence." Search parties, arriving months later when the ice finally loosened its grip, found the station eerily silent. The bodies of the crew lay frozen in their bunks, faces contorted in silent screams. The winter had claimed them all, leaving behind a chilling testament to its power and the desolate silence of a world consumed by the cold. While there aren't any confirmed true stories of ice cream trucks being harbingers of horror, folklore thrives on that exact fear. I can craft a spooky tale for you inspired by those urban legends. The rusted Chevy with peeling decals that vaguely resembled cartoon ice cream cones lurched to a stop in front of Billy's house. The usual chipper music was absent, replaced by a discordant tune that scraped against Billy's ears. He wasn't supposed to have ice cream after dinner, but the heat shimmered off the asphalt, and the lure of a frozen treat was undeniable. Billy pushed open the screen door, the whine of the rusty hinges echoing in the twilight. A hunched figure emerged from the shadows of the truck. He wasn't the jolly man from the Mr. Frosty truck that frequented their neighborhood. This vendor was gaunt, his skin stretched tight over his skull, and his smile revealed more gaps than teeth. "You looking for something sweet, Sonny?" His voice rasped like sandpaper on wood. Billy hesitated, the melody twisting into a frantic jig. A shiver ran down his spine despite the heat. Every instinct screamed at him to retreat, but a primal urge for something cold and sugary held him rooted to the spot. "What flavors do you have?" Billy's voice barely escaped his parched throat. The vendor chuckled, a dry, hollow sound. "Only one special tonight, Sonny. Just for you." He reached into the depths of the truck, and Billy's heart hammered against his ribs. The vendor emerged holding a tub unlike any Billy had ever seen. It was a sickly shade of green, flecked with what looked suspiciously like teeth, disgust-wired with a morbid curiosity. "What is it?" Billy croaked, surprised. The vendor cackled, his eyes gleaming with a malevolent hunger. Before Billy could take another step back, the vendor lunged. Billy tripped over the uneven pavement, the green tub clattering to the ground. The lid popped open, revealing a swirling mess that pulsed within a natural light. A stench unlike anything Billy had ever encountered assaulted him, a mix of rotten flesh and cloying sweetness. A shriek tore from Billy's throat. He scrambled to his feet and bolted towards the house, the warped music of the ice cream truck blaring behind him. He slammed the door shut, throwing his weight against it as the guttural scraping of metal on wood echoed from outside. He locked every deadbolt he could find, gasping for breath. Silence. Then, a blood-curdling scream pierced the night, unlike anything human. Billy slumped to the floor, tears stinging his eyes. The putrid smell seeped in under the door, a constant reminder of the horror that lurked just outside. The police never found the ice cream truck. Billy's story was dismissed as a childish nightmare. But on sweltering summer nights, when the air hangs heavy and a faint, discordant tune drifts on the breeze, Billy can still smell the cloying sweetness of death, a chilling reminder of the night the ice cream truck brought terror.